this organ. Adrenal gland. Identify this organ. The ureters or ureters. Identify this organ. Urinary bladder. Identify this organ right here. Urethra. Does anybody recognize this organ? Right below the bladder, encircling the urethra in males. Prostate. Prostate. So if we look at this, can everybody recognize this as the male? So here's the, identify the organ. Bladder. Identify this structure right here. Urethra. And then this organ. Prostate gland. So that's why when a male has an enlarged prostate, one of the first symptoms is difficulty urinating, because see how it goes, the urethra goes right through the prostate gland. So if these cells start to enlarge, they're going to close off that space. Also, you can see here in this model, when they check to see if the prostate is enlarged, they'll do what is called a digital rectal exam. So they'll just put a digit, a finger here in the rectum, and if that prostate is enlarged, it's going to touch, you know, that finger. They're going to, the physician is going to be able to palpate that, and that's how they can just do a quick check for an enlarged prostate. Over here on the female, let's look at this one. Identify this organ right here. That's the bladder, and identify this organ, the urethra. What's this organ? Here's a clue. This is the uterus, and this organ is the vagina, okay? And this organ right here is the rectum. So notice we have this sac right here. What is it? Bladder. And this tube, urethra. This sac right here, uterus, and this tube, vagina. And then this tube over here, the rectum. And of course the last part is the anal canal, and the opening is the anus. Okay, this is representing the ovaries, and in pink, what does that represent? The fallopian tubes. Very good. So this is on this model right here. If we look at this model over here, we can likewise see nicely from this lateral view right here, this mid-sagittal section, identify this organ right here, bladder, and then this tube right here would be the urethra, and this is the uterus, and this right here, vagina, and then this right here, rectum, and down at the end, the anus. Okay, and then in our males, what I was trying to, the reason I wanted to show you these models over here is I wanted to show you how the bladder, how the uterus is located between the bladder and the rectum. So this is a little section in a female. So right here, everybody recognize the uterus right here, the fallopian tubes, and the ovaries on this one. And then back here, coming up this way, this would be the rectum. And in front of it, right here, this would be the bladder, okay? And that, whereas in the males, here is the rectum right here, and then right here is the bladder. We can see the ureters coming from the back, and then can you see this tube looping around the ureters right here? This tube looping around, that's called the vas deferens. And we're gonna see that in our cat when we do our dissections, how they loop around those ureters. And then one more view that I wanted to show you that's important clinically, so that you understand in your pregnant females. If we look at these two models, can somebody put those on the other table, please? Let's put that for a second, and that other one. Thank you. All right, so we can compare very nicely here in this pregnant female. Identify this organ, bladder, and this right here, urethra, and then this right here, organ, uterus, and then this would be the vagina, and this would be the rectum. So notice how the uterus is between the rectum and the bladder. Now look, as the baby develops even further, can you find the bladder on here? Pretty hard. See how it gets compressed? That's why the pregnant female has to go to the bathroom every couple of seconds, it feels like, because the baby is pressing on the bladder. So it doesn't have a chance to get as full. It sends a signal telling the female that the bladder is full. And then over here, can you see right here the rectum and the intestines? So see how the baby is pressing on that? So frequently the female will have constipation or hemorrhoids trying because there's that compression on the intestines. So it can be a little bit uncomfortable there at the very end. Okay, and so just notice that there are 3 tubes in the female. This first tube is going to be the urethra. The second tube is going to be the vagina. And then the third tube over here, that's going to be the anal canal or the anus, you know, leading to the rectum. Okay? All right, so we'll talk about that when we get to the reproductive system. And then, guys, believe it or not, that's it